Good evening from Johannesburg. I am Kgabo Morifi. I'm the Research Associate at Tshwane University of Technology, and I'm the Serving Secretary of the Young Communist League in Tshwane District. Welcome to Let's Have It Out. ENCA gives a variety of different newsmakers the chance to host this program, unfiltered, accountable and accessible. Local government elections that took place in 2016 marked a significant shift in the dynamics of municipal governance. What am I talking about? I'm asking this question because the ANC was displaced in metros such as Johannesburg, Tshwane, Nelson Mandela Bay. And of course, while this is not a new phenomena, the emergence of coalition government in municipalities dates as far back as 2000, and the radical decline of the support of the ANC in the metros is notable. These developments beg this question I'm asking today. What factors give rise to coalition municipalities in South Africa? Are political parties ready for delicate demands, dilemmas of this arrangement? And perhaps just as importantly, given the unstable state of these coalitions, what is the future of coalition governments in our country? I believe young leaders must be at the forefront of this discussion, for they will inherit the government that they must guide its higher civilization. We'll give you a chance to be part of this conversation, and this is how you're going to do it.
Tweet us at ENCA using the hashtag LHIO. Call us on 011-759-6340 or send us a WhatsApp or WhatsApp video on 082-884-6370. And make sure those videos are no longer than 30 seconds, please.
I am joined in the studio by the Secretary General of the ANC Youth League, Njabulo Nzuza. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Kgabo, for having me, and thank you to the ENCA team for having us today.
Thank you. The French socialist Guy Mollet describes a coalition as the art of wearing the right shoe on the left without getting blisters. Now, this is something delicate. Do you think young people have the capacity to mitigate the complexity that coalition, come with?
Well, in as much as we might think that coalitions are complex, but in the main, what we have seen in other countries and also in South Africa is that they are not that complex. They actually put power over principle. This has been demonstrated if you look at the ASA report in 2003, which was dealing with the situation in Mauritius, where you have parties coming together rather than to pursue their ideological beliefs, but they rather sacrifice them and clinch into power through the use of coalitions. That has been the phenomenon that we have seen throughout the country. And that is why that some of us believe that coalitions, to be more simple, they need to be negotiated before an election is held, such that when a party is voted for by a voter knows exactly what they are getting themselves into, and not a situation whereby a voter votes for a left-wing organization only to find that that party goes into bed with the right-wing organization, all in the name of power. And as young people, we need to have coalitions that are more open. If you look at South Africa right now, you have the EFF, which claims to be a champion of the poor, going into a coalition with an organization that is a champion of white supremacy, that protects white supremacy and white privilege in South Africa, literally selling out all their voters. The question is, will the voters have voted with the EFF had they known that the EFF was going to go to bed with the DA? I don't think so.
I think I need to ask a question as a follow-up, and obviously this I'm asking because I'm talking to a youth leader, a person who represents, aspirations of many young people in South Africa. And the question I want to ask is that, do you consider the coalition to be the failure on the part of the governing party, provided the fact that there was a notable decline in the number of voters. I mean, you are talking about, having to, have a discussion before elections could be held. Is that not, an indication that perhaps was sensing a signal of a decline in the looming elections?
Well, when it comes to the ANC as a leader of society, is that in the previous local government elections, decline in the metros was as a result of not people not voting for the ANC or voting for other parties. It was a decision that society took by staying away from the polls. They did not go and vote because they were unhappy with certain things within the ANC. Which brings me to the other issue, because these coalitions, what they...
Maybe just to interject you there, why do you think society took such a decision?
Well, it was basically because they were not happy with certain things in the ANC. Like in any ruling party, in government, there will be certain expectations, some of them that will not be met in a short period or in a medium term, and they could be met in a longer run. And as such, the ANC is very conscious of how society thinks or how society perceives it. And you can see right now that the ANC is acting in a different way as a result of what it has learned during the 2016 local government elections. And what we observed is people who said no. The ANC remains our political home. The ANC remains the major champion of the people's interest. But because they were not happy with certain things, they decided to stay away. They decided not to punish the ANC by voting other opposition parties. The other issues that you see are technicalities when it comes to elections. You find that now in the ballot, you will have an AIC just above the ANC. You will have other parties that are now being formed, mitigating the name of the ANC to confuse the voter. Those are all the technicalities that goes into it. But what is mostly discomforting is that coalitions, to a larger extent, give power to organizations that have been rejected by the voters. You have a situation in Johannesburg where the EFF gets 11%, and it gets to have a major say on what happens, whilst it was blatantly refused and rejected by the voters. Any organization that gets 11% is a clear indication from the voters that it's being rejected.
I do hear you, and I understand that we've got to go to break. I actually wanted us to delve deeper into the role that youth organizations have got to play, especially at the level of the discussion around coalitions. And I think that it is very, very important. Why am I saying this? It's because it is often argued that how the ANC is configured, it is configured in such a way that it stifles the participation of young people. And an example of that is the EFF. I mean, the EFF is a manifestation of the inability of the ANC to listen to, the rhetoric of young people and make sense out of it. And would that necessarily not inform the outcome of the elections? I mean, bearing in mind the fact that you have written a statement saying that 83% of the people who are new registered to vote are relatively young people. Do you think the young people have got the space in the ANC?
Well, I think the ANC opens space for young people. Right now, as we are going to the national elections, and you will realize that there is an implementation of 20%. That is a quota that the ANC has introduced for young people to be representatives of the ANC in parliament. So that is an organization that is not just talking about infusing young people, but is starting to infuse quotas, which means it is serious about young people. As young people, to go back to your other question, as young people, we are the future. And as such, we are going to exist in the future where the old will not be there. And it is up to us to start thinking about what kind of a future that will be. If it is a future that is going to involve coalitions, well, then let us know who we are going to go to a coalition with before we even vote for you. Before you even take our votes and dump them into a dustbin, we must know what your plans are.
Thank you, Njabulo. Let's continue with the discussion after the break. Make sure to use the hashtag LHIO on social media to be part of this discussion.